Hello, everyone. This is Tony Fleischman with ISE. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn. Infor XA 10 user experience. Joining us today is David Foster, product manager for Infor, and you might recognize David's voice. He's been with Infor for a long time, all the way back to the MAPICS days. And our focus for today's session is specifically the Infor XA 10 user experience. Most of our customers out there are running XA9 or before in a combination of green screen and PowerLink. XA10 was announced last year in August, or released last year in August. And the primary benefits of XA10 is allowing you to move to the new thin client user interfaces faster, more capable, and the long-term strategy for Infor as far as the user experience within XA10. We also have had two customers move to XA10 in production already. They basically moved like they were running XA9, moved to XA10, still running PowerLink, still running green screen, and then their intentions are to be going to the NetLink and System-I Workspace enabled tools that you're going to see today over a period of time. So lots of good ways to evolve into this new user experience as we move forward. With that, David, over to you.
Tony, thank you very much. Again, my name is David Foster, product manager at Infor. And for the next little while, we'll be talking about Infor XA Release 10, the user experience. As many of us know, XA has been around a long time. It started as MAPICS, and it has evolved, and we've constantly, or it feels like perpetually, rewritten the user interface as well as added new functions into XA. Well, the Release 10 is truly where we now have moved function from PowerLink into NetLink, and then created new function in NetLink, and truly positioning this for an internet-based application. Going through this, if we look at the tools, we still have Infor Development Framework, and that's the term that we use across the board now. When MAPICS was acquired by Infor a number of years ago, they saw this tool and decided that this was a very powerful tool, and they wanted to extend it out to all of those ERPs that run on the IBM I or the System-I, or, you know, for some of us older folks, the AS400. And it includes PowerLink, and PowerLink is a client-based desktop tool that accesses MAPICS on the back, or accesses XA on the back end. It's all desktop. The next one is NetLink, and that's a migration of the function of PowerLink to the internet. So it's all internet-based now. As we're watching this, the entire demo will be internet-based. We also have a tool called System Link that falls under the Infor Development Framework, and that's a tool to be able to move data from one system to another. If you're looking at Infor OS or ION, this is the tool that allows you to communicate with Infor OS and ION. We have the Enterprise Integrator, which is a development tool, and this development tool will allow for rapid prototyping and minimal technical knowledge on programming. Very, very powerful tool. So these are the family of products, and we're going to look at NetLink. So essentially,
David, sorry about that. I forgot to mention to everyone, your lines are muted, but if you move your cursor to the presentation screen and go down to the bottom, the banner across the bottom, and you can enter questions either in Q&A or chat, and we'll be monitoring those throughout the session. Back to you, David.
Thank you. This is going to be a live presentation. I'm going to go through some slides to kind of set it up, and then we'll go directly into Release 10. So it's the internet version of PowerLink and then some. It has zero footprint. It just plugs into a browser. I think I'm going to use Microsoft Edge to go into it, but any of the popular browsers, I've been through it with Chrome and many of the others. This allows for, again, still a single point of support, so that you go in and you can do your updates and everyone sees those propagated immediately. It's the same ERP system. It's the same back-end system. It's the same XA out there. So you're going to the same system. Now it allows you to access this with PowerLink or perhaps a green screen, and it's the same database. Everything that you can do in the database, everything you change in the database or create, then will be reflected using these tools. It's the strategic direction, not only for XA, but for all of our ERP systems running on the System-I. It's platform independent and it's location independent. The interesting thing about those two is, especially with COVID, is that, I work out of my home office. I happen to be in a fairly remote area in Texas, halfway between Houston and Dallas. And so no big cities around. And this allows me to go ahead and do my job out of my home office because I'm now location independent. And certainly with COVID, it taught us how important it was to be able to work away from our primary office. Over the years, NetLink has evolved. We have recently, well, let me say in the last 5 years, we have significantly invested in the performance. And I think you'll see today, as we're going through that we have very good performance on NetLink. It performs very, very well. In fact, I've been told by many of our customers that use it that they're more comfortable with the speed and the performance of NetLink well over PowerLink. It's the same user ID and password as you're logging in. So if you log into the green screen with the user ID and password, that's the same one for PowerLink, and that's the same one for NetLink. It's all the same system. This evolution and development that we've done in an internet-based PowerLink essentially allows it to be the ideal cloud interface. If you look what we've done, we've taken all of the functional objects, the customer service, CSM, materials, EPDM, all the finance applications, the latest and greatest, the CRM application we have, procurement, and of course, planning. We've moved all of those to NetLink. You now have access to all of those. And again, if you do something here, you can do create, update, and deletes. If you do something here, it's going to be reflected in anything that has access to that database. So green screen as well as PowerLink. It has the standard navigation and information flow in the background as XA. Things flow the same way. It has the same flow and navigation techniques as you see in PowerLink. So if you're comfortable with navigating in PowerLink, then NetLink is going to be a very, very easy transition for you. If you've made any personalizations in PowerLink, all those personalizations will flow over to your profile when you log into NetLink. So you'll see everything there. If you've created or your IT department has created any enterprise integrator objects. So that is to say, if they've written a custom program for you that you select while you're in PowerLink, then that will flow over as well. You'll see the same thing in NetLink. It's going to support all the personalizations, any views and subsets that you've created, any card and card files, any templates. And we also now introduce, this has been around for a little while, IDF level 1. And IDF level 1 is essentially a green screen that you can access. Now, as we're looking at this, we're going to see the demo of NetLink under Infor OS. We're also going to use a product called System Workspace Anywhere. And this is going to allow us to render the green screens from XA. It will also allow you to render the green screens in this platform for anything that you've developed. There are specific instructions, but that can be done as well. So what we've brought over into NetLink Release 10 is we can go and we can size the columns, so we can make the columns as wide as we want to. We can relocate the columns. We can create and edit views and subsets, so we can actually go in and create these now, right in NetLink. We can also create and edit cards and card files. So we can do all this personalization now that we used to have to use PowerLink for in NetLink. We also have the ad hoc query, super, super powerful, right? We have a filter row at the very top of the just above the labels of the column labels, and you're able to go in and key in your selection criteria. If you want advanced things, we also have an advanced query capability where we can go in and we can do lists and ranges, and we'll use the same tool if we want to go in and build our own subsets and prompted subsets. We've introduced mass actions, and mass actions are going to let us do things in mass, as the name implies. I'm going to demonstrate the MRP recommendations where we can do mass create manufacturing order, mass create purchase orders, mass release, those kinds of things. There are over 200 mass functions within Release 10, and inside those, they're going to be scattered out through each one of the various functions and business objects in Release 10. We have the ability to do a create and edit a split view. And if you look at the graphic on the right, that's a good example of a split view, and I will demonstrate that live as well. Essentially, what we're doing on the left-hand side is selecting a customer. And on the right-hand side, we have displayed the ship to addresses. We have open customer orders. We have open invoices, and we have a customer order history. All this is personalized by the user. So this is what I chose to set up, but you can set it up any way that you want. As I change customers, this information will change as well. We have user definition history, and this is kind of interesting. If any user goes in and creates a view or creates a subset or changes a view or changes a subset or any of those are cards or card files, it's going to track what user did it and when it was done. So when it was changed, it's also going to track the relationship of where it's used and when it was last used. This actually came from our enhancement request system. One of our customers asked this to be done because it ended up that everyone loved to create views, everyone loved to create card files and subsets, but they would do it for single use. And so, 2 or 3 years later, you have hundreds of these that aren't being used anymore. This allows you to maintain a little bit of housekeeping there and just keep current, just keep on the system what's used. We have the ability to do a freeze column, and this is kind of sweet. If, for example, you have a particularly long record, and to be able to get to the column you want to see, you have to scroll to the right. Well, I often get lost when I do that because the main index or the main information is on the far left-hand side, and I just scrolled and now that's hidden. So what we can do now is we can pick the first few columns and you decide how many columns and where it's going to be and freeze that part of the screen. And then we can scroll the remaining columns so that we can see all the information that we want. Kind of originally, I think, appeared as an Excel function. Another thing we can do, and we've been waiting a long time to be able to do this, is we can export directly into Excel. But we've actually gone one step further in that. We can export directly into Excel, but we create what's called a .ods extension. So what does that mean? That means basically if you're not using Excel, you're using one of the other spreadsheets out there, like maybe Google, it will automatically load into Google. So that's the generic spreadsheet extension. So any of the popular spreadsheets now, it will automatically load into if those are your default spreadsheets. So we're introducing System-wide Workspace Anywhere. This has been around for a while, but it's critical in R10. This is kind of our entry point. The big thing that this does is it unites the functions that we find in traditional XA. And this is IDF level 1. As you can see, it's a graphical green screen. It also brings in IDF NetLink. So we're now tying together IDF NetLink, Infor OS, which is our collaboration, and bringing together truly a world-class user interface, group of user interface. So if we look at what System-wide Workspace Anywhere does, is it provides the visibility of all the PowerLink cards. So if we look under My Task, which is here, and I'm going to show this live too. If we look under My Task, we're going to see all of the PowerLink card files, cards and card files. We have a column of favorites. Much like the internet, we just drag and drop and say, now that's our favorite. It allows us to have our personal organization so we can create folders, and maybe it's one function, maybe it's a year-end kind of thing, maybe it's certain processes. So we can put that in our folders and use that and organize our links ourselves. It allows for a note section. It allows for a keyword search off the menus inside of XA, regardless of where they are. So if you're looking for it in NetLink, if you're looking for it in the IDF level 1, any of those, it will search that, provide you the results, and with that becomes a link to that area. And then finally, it's going to be able to allow you to have all your output right at your desktop. So with that, I'm going to go into the live demo. And let's begin with the System-wide Workspace Anywhere. And as I mentioned, it has a list of all the PowerLink card files. This essentially is going to be a hierarchy based on the card file itself. So we work our way down and we end up, in this case, we're looking at CSM and we're looking at all the business objects or icons that we saw in CSM. And if we want, we can just grab one and drag it over and it's now on our favorites. We can do things like create a extra folder over here. And if we want, we can grab things and drop it into our folder. So now we have that in our specific folder. So these are our favorites, as you probably gathered. You can create your own folder, and the folder can be a function. And right now I'll use a lot of these based on the demos that I'm doing. So you can see my NetLink R10 folder. So these are some of the areas that we'll be looking at this afternoon. If you want to have a function or a process, you can do that as well, or you can simply put it in a long list, as some of these suggest. All these are links that allow us to go directly into XA. By simply selecting this, we're going to open up a tab, and it's going to bring up customers. We're now using inside of NetLink, inside of XA. Okay, this is our task search. So if we go in here and search on anything, these are now links that are going to take us into XA as well. So these are links additionally that we can drag and drop. We've now added that link inside that folder. These are going to be notes that we can use, and this is going to be our printouts. So any of the output that we have access to them here. We can look at them in text. We can look at them in PDF. We can download them. We can email them. So it gives us a lot of flexibility and all that. So now let's go into item revisions, and let's take a scroll at some of the R10 stuff that we've added. I'm sorry, let me go back to System My Workspace. I just saw my notes, so something else I wanted to show you. Okay. I just ran into a problem that I need to fix. I apologize. Bear with me.
As David's going through to fix this, I think one thing to recognize here is everything you're seeing, as David mentioned, is being run from his home back to a server at Infor. And that's one of the key benefits we see here is the speed of this user interface, the fact that it runs directly in a browser. So if you're familiar with PowerLink and thick clients and Corretto and Java and all those other pieces that are needed to make the traditional PowerLink user interface work, NetLink streamlines this dramatically. The other thing that we're working on, and I don't think David covered this yet, is related to green screen. And we get the question about, so if you think of how you use PowerLink today, can you use NetLink to replace that? And that answer is yes. There are differences, so it's don't assume it's one for one in every way. So one of the things we were waiting on for quite some time was the Excel export. That's here, and that was one of the holdups that we had with customers. You may have been tinkering with NetLink even as early as the early versions of XA9. NetLink was announced by Infor quite some time ago, and we had some customers who tinkered. We had some customers who tried some things specifically with rollout and COVID, and not wanting to put in RDP or thick, other ways to handle the thick client from remote sites. But that NetLink interface has matured substantially over the last 18 months and continues to do so. So as we talk to customers about their move, they look at two aspects. How do we move our PowerLink customers to NetLink, and what are the implications? And then how do we move our green screen functions, perhaps AM Financials or IFM or Pick, Pack, and Ship are probably the most common ones, but there's other green screeny stuff that's out there. How do you move that into this user interface? And that's where System My Workspace comes into play. And David, I see you're back in live at this point.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I don't know what I ran. I don't know what happened. I get some kind of weird hiccup. One of the things I wanted to show you is this is an example of a green screen. This is an XA green screen. And as you can see, we've got all the F keys at the bottom. We also have actions here. So you can actually use the F keys, or you can use it to click. And here's an example. I'm going to go into the pick list number, and I'm going to do an F4 for the prompt, and it's going to come out and now prompt me, just like it does in the green screen. So we've rendered the green screen completely here. This is also where you can add yours. We also have the ability of executing commands from here. And again, we've gone into what was traditionally green screen, And these are going to be files that we can do development work on as well. So you can see that those are areas that we can use. Those are areas that we can go into. Now let's go into item revisions. As we look at item revisions, I'd like to point out also the performance you're seeing is real life performance. So again, in a remote area, and as Tony mentioned, I'm going back to Alpharetta, which is north of Atlanta, to be able to access the system wide there. So pretty good response time. You know, I'm quite pleased with it. Some of the things you'll notice as we look, you'll see that we have added a button at the top called Customize. This gives us the ability to customize things like views and subsets and sorts. We can customize cards and card files. We can set our preferences up here, and we can also set up global preferences. With PowerLink, global preferences were set on the main browser menu, but now they're at all the business object level. We've also added drop-down boxes so that we can see exactly what views we have available to us. And if we hover over the view itself, it's going to give us a listing of what's contained in that view. This is the drop-down box for subsets. This is going to be the traditional grid that we saw before, where we can do drop-downs, but we can also edit them from here. We can go in and we can change the location of a column now. We can change the column width. And here's something that I think is wonderful. If you've ever found yourself in there changing it so much and it's like, man, I'm just going crazy, I want to go ahead and reset to the original layout. Now it's exactly the way it was before I started, before I made it nice, right? So we can do that rearrangement. We also have the capability now to have a filter here. So we have filters across the top, and it has built-in intelligence in that it reads the field type and provides the argument associated with the field type. So we can go in, and these are going to be related to an alphanumeric type field. If we want to go in and use a drop-down box, it's going to pull in all the code files, all the codes that we use, and we can select from here. If you're going to use a date, it's going to deliver to you a calendar for you to select the date. So it's going to be very different in terms of the type of searches that we can do. If you want to get into more detail, we can simply select the label as we did in PowerLink, and it gives us the ability to customize the column or the subset criteria. This takes us into enhanced subset definition. And one of the things we wanted to do is make it simpler, make it easier, bring things together if we could. So we're down to just a single card, and we have all of our operators here, or I like to call them arguments. If we want to do a list or a field value or a range, we can do those here. And this is where we would prompt it for a value. So we can simply go in and do a subset on the site. And now we're looking at everything associated with that site. Okay. We can clear it. Okay, so that's going to turn that off. So we can go in and we can do our subsets from there. We can also go in and create views and subsets, and they look very similar to PowerLink. I'm going to edit this one. They look very similar to PowerLink, and these are the fields that we're using. These are the fields that we can use. One of the beauties of this, though, is we've now put in this query filter row where we can go in and filter on that. We can also select the object. If you recall in the past, we had a hierarchy or a file structure where we went in and we said, okay, these are all the objects that we're searching in. At this point now, we can deselect all of them and just pick the one we want to do the search in, and then do our search here to find the field that we're looking for. And as we select the field, we'll go in and we now have the choice upon selection to be able to go in and set all this up. If we want column statistics, if we want to change the name, if we want to add a color scheme to it, we can do that by column or by record, or we can do that up here for the whole view. Okay, I'm not going to save this. Okay, so you can see that it's very similar. If you're comfortable creating views, if you're comfortable creating subsets, those can be done as well within Power or NetLink very quickly. We also have the function, if you'll notice this light gray line, that's where I inserted into the view the freeze column. So everything on the left-hand side is going to be fixed, and everything on the right-hand side, I'm going to be able to scroll over. So I can scroll all the way down. So maybe I want to select a record and scroll over to get the last column to get the information that I'm looking for. Okay. If we look at cards and card files, again, very similar. So it's going to prompt you with the type of card that you want, and then go through, and just like it did before, these are those that are available to us. These are the ones that we're using since this is brand new. We can also base it on another view. So we can say we just want to add to this card the columns that are on a certain view. So kind of nice. And of course, we can do our filter row here as well. Okay. So if we look, we also can do things like mass actions. There we go. And so I want to go into MRP recommendations. Very consistent look and feel. Go into maintenance here. We have mass accept, mass create, change, so on and so forth. And I picked MRP recommendations because they have a lot of options under the mass actions, but this is going to be throughout XA, and you'll find it in all the various areas. Okay, another area I want to take you into is looking at customers, and I showed this in the PowerPoint. Let's take an example of a customer service rep, and the customer service rep, when they get phone calls, they usually get calls about saying things like their current order, the open orders. They get things like order history, maybe invoices, maybe ship to destinations. So what we've done in this example is I set up a query, give me a name, and it does a subset on the name, and I select this, and then I click on this. This is going to be, it's a change view, but it's going to give us a split view. It now gives me the ability, as I select this record, to show the ship to addresses here, the open customer orders here, the invoices, and the customer order history. Further, we have the ability, this is live, so we have the ability to go in perhaps and make changes to it. If we want to edit the customer order, we simply can go from right here to edit the customer order. So it gives you all this information at your fingertips. I'm canceling it now, and it's taking me back to where I was. This is essentially the default card file associated with, in this case, the customers. So it could be a full card file if you wanted. It could be whatever you wanted. This is a compound card with 4 cards on it. And these are just some of the most common ones that I used during my demo. So if we want to go and find more information regarding this, we can come up here and go to additional information. So if we want to look at the customer items, addresses, contracts, shipments, any of those kinds of things, we can navigate to those directly from here. So we now have all the information relative to that particular customer. Okay, let's take a look at user definition history. User definition history is going to be as we're creating the same area where we create the views. So this is our view. These are the fields in our view or columns in our view. Here's our maintenance history. I happened to create this one yesterday and changed it like 5 times as I was creating it. This is where I use it in the item revisions. And this is when it was last used. So we'll timestamp and say, prior to this session, this was the last time that I used it, which says that it's current. It's used often. Okay. So let's go into purchase orders. And in purchase orders, I've gone in and I've changed some of the fields. Basically, what I said is that if it's been approved, put a check mark on there. If it's been printed, put a little piece of paper on there. If it has vendor accept, then go in here and put a check mark that it's been accepted by the vendor. If we've received it complete, put a check mark. If we've received a partial, then put a little truck there. And then if we've received nothing, leave it blank. So this just makes it very easy for us to go in, and at a glance, we can see where each one of these stand. Okay. So from here, I can go in and say, all right, you know, I want to take a look and I want to work with these for a little bit. So let me go ahead and export these to a spreadsheet. Now we're taking the information, reading XA, and we've now created a file. If you can see it, it says list11.ods. So I'm going to open this. Excel is going to pop up for me. It could be Google Docs or anything like that. And we've downloaded it directly into Excel. Again, the beauty is that it's a .ods instead of a .xls type extension. And so it can be open with any of the popular spreadsheet tools. Okay, I think I've covered the things that I wanted to cover. I'd be happy to open it up for questions.
I don't see any questions out there right now. But out there, if you have questions, you can either raise your hand or enter something into the Q&A at the bottom of the screen or into the chat. While we're waiting on that, just as far as entitlement to these tools, if you have Flex, if your company has Flex to the latest version of XA, you are entitled to NetLink and SystemI Workspace, so no additional licensing required. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably 95% of the customers that we work with are entitled to this, either through past upgrades or flexes or when they purchase their licensing to begin with, or you name it. So it would have to be a very old footprint to not be entitled to this. Secondly, moving from past versions. If your majority of our customers are at XA 9. something, 9.0, 9.1, 9.2. There is a direct migration tool from 9.2 to XA 10. David, what do we know about the migration tool from 9.x to XA 10 right now?
I think that the tool is still under development or soon to be released. I've not received any feedback from development recently, but it will be something to assist you. This is a release 10. If you're at the most current release of XA, installing this in release 10, this is essentially, it's a NetLink upgrade. But because it was so significant, the things that we moved into NetLink, that we made it release 10. We have part of a technical team which supports the demo systems, and it took him about 2 hours to do it. So it's not very complex. It doesn't touch the database. It's only a NetLink upgrade. It's a technical upgrade.
Yeah, what we've seen there, for those of you who are familiar with going from 9.0 to 9.1 to 9.1.1 to 9.2 to 9.2.1, those are all PCMs. And if you've applied PCMs in the past, this process of going from 9.2 to 10.x is a PCM as well. So you know, for some of our customers, that PCM process is complicated. For others, it's not. It's been streamlined. They don't have any hurdles. So if you're familiar with that PCM process, this is a straightforward PCM apply. By the way, PowerLink and green screen continue to be there. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we have customers who have just gotten to get XA10 just to allow them to be ready then to start tinkering with NetLink and SystemI Workspace. The SystemI Workspace does require an install. ISE is offering services to help you install SystemI Workspace. It's something new to the vast majority of our customers. So we can walk you and talk you or install that for you to get you to that level. Also, as far as a lot of questions we get oftentimes are, what about my third-party applications or my custom code? The upgrade from XA 9.2 to 10 would be very, very similar to any other past upgrades. But there is very, very little change. We've seen no issues at all with people working with their third-party applications. If they worked with 9.2, they work with 10. If they're custom integrator objects and so on, work in 9.2, they work in 10. Of course, we still suggest testing and verification and validation at every step of the way. But we've seen very good compatibility for external applications, whether homegrown or third-party, working with 9.2 and moving to 10. We do have a question here regarding the recording. Monica, did you already answer that the way it looks? Sorry.
I did. I just typed the response that we will be emailing out the recording with the Zoom. Thank you for
Perfect.
attending email.
Perfect. Thank you. I was looking at it and it disappeared as I was reading. It's like, well, you're on the ball. So thank you. So yes, we will make the recording available to everybody. And if you attend that, you'll get that email from us.
Looks like we have
David,
another
any other?
question.
Oops, go ahead.
Yep, it does look like there's another question that popped in here. If you wanted to take a stab at that one.
Okay, question. Users like the multiple windows and desktop Infor program. We have Infor ERP XA NetLink also, and just change the screen as they navigate around. I think the split screen will assist in 10, but is that what it is for? Any thoughts? Let me reread this one. Users like the multiple windows in the desktop Infor program. We have Infor ERP XA NetLink also, and just changes the screen as they navigate around, not creating another pop-up screen. I think the split screen will assist in 10, but is that what it is for?
The split screen originally was designed to give you a way to migrate workbenches into release 10. And so it provides the synchronization of that kind of information. There's also a way, and I know you said not doing pop-ups, but you can open the functions in System I Workspace in additional pages. Now, apparently I have that turned off, but it basically says open in another tab or in another screen, and it will give you the additional screen there. But we also have tabs across the top. I don't know if you noticed that. So as I open each area, it's going to give me a new tab. And so if I'm in here and I open up a customer order, it's going to bring that customer up, but I still have the ability to bounce from here to here. So if I go into item revisions, same sort of thing. So I can drill right into this screen, or I can go here and open up multiple screens of item revisions. So it's very similar, but it is slightly different than what PowerLink does in terms of the number of screens, but you do have options. So we can set up the split screen where we see basically multiple screens at the same time, or you can open up multiple tabs, and you can open up multiple tabs of the same. So if I wanted to have multiple item revisions up, I can open up multiple item revisions. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, David.
Okay, good.
JJ came back and said, yep, so we're good there. Thank you.
Sweet.
All right. I don't see any more questions coming in. So that does wrap up our session for today. David, thank you very much. If you have questions specific to XA10 or XA in general, please reach out to myself or your ISE rep. Primary targets there would be Sherry Woodrick or Ryan Freitag. Happy to help you. And we're really pleased with what we see with XA10 as the next step forward here for Infor XA. That will wrap it up. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, take care. Talk to you soon.